0 Kilo Yankee Echo.
Kilo 0 Yankee Echo, is that Roger?
Kilo Yankee Echo.
Kilo 0 Kilo Yankee Echo.
Roger, roger.
Hey, and what's the name there, sir?
Name here is Kyle, Jim. I spoke with you in the past. It's been quite a long time, but I remember today was your day to be on the frequency, so I'd give you a call. Back to you.
Yes, sir. Now, let's see. What radio are you running, sir?
This is my old Yaesu FT-101 with a Collins 3001 amplifier running about 500 watts into a Johnson Viking matchbox that's tuning a random length of wire.
Roger that. And what's your location?
I'm in north central Iowa, about 60 miles north of Des Moines.
Alrighty, and looking at your audio on a spectrum analyzer, you could use a little more bottom-end audio. You're cutting off somewhere around, looks about 400 cycles. You could take that on down just a little bit for a little more bottom-end, Roger?
Well, this radio doesn't have much control over the tone of the transmission. I'm using an old static D104 microphone. It's a powered mic, and it has no processor in it. It has capability to add a processor, but it doesn't have processing ability.
Roger, Roger. Well, you know, you're lucky that you've got the built-in amplifier on the D104. If you were to be trying to run that cartridge direct without the amplifier, you really would be sheet 10, because that's a really high impedance element in that D104 mic, and it is working into its own amplifier, which you know, that's the good thing. And then when it comes out, it's coming out probably at about 600 ohms, so you have a good match into your radio. Roger?
Yeah, Roger that. This is a bit of an antique. I use it, well, it is actually the best performing radio that I own, and I really enjoy using this thing. Back to you.
Roger. Now, we do have a generic setup to get 3 dB dynamic range in a very transparent way. We do start, I'm sure you do have a compressor. We suggest turning the compressor on at a token amount, just a 3. It's a setting that you'll never hear work. And that's the idea behind setting equipment up properly, that you don't want to hear it actually working. Roger?
Roger that, but no, it doesn't even have a compressor on it.
Well, it's for what it is. It sounds good. The only thing I noticed was, you know, it's not quite a 3 dB dynamic range. You're probably about 4.5. Does it have an ALC meter?
It does, but given that there's no processor on it, the ALC, the thing doesn't really any settings that I change really doesn't have any impact on the ALC.
Oh, yes, it does. Yes, it does. Your mic gain directly controls your ALC. What we suggest is that you bring your ALC meter up with mic gain in hand, and just speak naturally into your microphone normally, and just adjust your mic gain until your ALC meter is running mid-scale to 2/3. Mid-scale to 2/3 by way of adjusting your mic gain control. Roger, Roger?
I'll give it a try. I've got the ALC turned on. I'm going to turn my mic gain up a little bit and see if, can you tell any difference in that I jumped it up about 2 notches.
Right, I can tell the difference, but what I want you to do is to look at your ALC and make that adjustment yourself, because you can see, you know, the ALC meter is your Bible for that radio, and it will tell you more what that radio is doing than your best buddy down the street. So what you want to do is adjust your mic gain until that ALC meter is running mid-scale to 2/3. The actual sweet spot is right between mid-scale and 2/3, but you know, you have the plus and minus, so we suggest mid-scale to 2/3 on the ALC. Roger?
Okay, I'm going to. The peculiar thing is the ALC is stuck right at 3, and it's right at mid-range, regardless of where I turn the mic gain.
Is that an actual meter or electronic rendition?
It's an actual meter. It's the meter on the face of the radio. It's got 3 settings: IC, power out, and ALC, and I've got the switch down to ALC.
I wouldn't change a thing, sir. You're 3 dB dynamic range right now, so just hands off. You got exactly what you need to do. 3 dB dynamic range. If you consider that the normal speech is 10 dB dynamic range, that is, if I was speaking on a PA system with no processing, my dynamic range would be 10 dB. That is, the dynamic range is the difference between the smallest amount of signal from my voice and the loudest amount. That would be the total dynamic range is 10 dB. But when we go to transmit that, it just doesn't work out very well because of all the noise factors and stuff. So we want to reduce the dynamic range to make the signal fatter. That way we reduce the signal to noise ratio, and 3 dB is ideal. Now you can continue on and crunch that audio even further down to 2 dB, 1 dB, but what happens when you pass 3 dB, you start becoming more difficult to understand because you need some dynamics in your voice to actually define the words that you're using. Otherwise, it's just a blur. If I were to be able to push you on into a half a dB dynamic range, it would be just a scream blurred, signal without any life to it. It'd be very difficult to understand, Roger.
Yes, I understand. That's good information to have. But I have threatened to actually purchase a processor for this thing, and I'm not sure if that would really gain me all that much. What do you think?
Oh, yes. Now, you could go to an outboard preamp. Art makes a nice little preamp, and Behringer makes a nice little preamp. They're give you the facility for using a condenser microphone. Now you're using that D104, which is a nice communications microphone, but it does have certain inalienable distortions. The D104 is intrinsically distorted in only a way that it can. I can't describe it, but it is a distortion that you can identify a D104 in use, even when you have the proper match with the amp into the radio. So if you really wanted to hip up your act, you could go and get you an Art preamp or a Behringer preamp. They're like $50, and you just take the output. You might have to pad it down just a little bit to go into your mic input, but it does have a output pad and an input pad, so you can make the adjustments of level match. And the beautiful part about it is that it gives you a phantom voltage on your mic that you could start using a condenser microphone, which would be just tremendously enhancing as far as the sound. Roger?
Copy that, yes. Well, I might try that someday. It's worth looking at. But with respect to what I'm doing with this radio, maybe I should just leave well enough alone.
Well, now that's a point too. It does sound nice, and I think you'll like the recording if you go to YouTube and do a call letter search for KC9VKV followed by the date 9/11/20. That should take you directly to this recording. Roger?
I'll do that. You can be sure. That's one thing I enjoy about our conversations that we've had in the past, is being able to listen to them on the YouTube channel. That's very nice.
Roger, and I am copying you the mail on my local receiver, which is pretty highly modified in receive and transmit, and I'm fairly well flat to below 100 cycles. So unlike SDR receivers on the internet, they do tend to roll at maybe 250 cycles down. I'm flat beyond 100 cycles, and the output of this receiver is up on a spectrum analyzer, so you can see your actual curve. Roger?
Roger that. I'm going to do one last thing before I go, Jim. I'm going to try contacting you without my amplifier and see if I can, so I can listen to the difference in the signal when I listen to YouTube.
All right, I have you set for 0 level on my meter, and so when you come back, it'll be the difference.
Okay. How's this sound? Is this any, am I doing much with my amplifier?
Okay, yeah, you're 3 dB, let's see, no, you're 5 dB below where you were. Come back and tell me about your antenna system at low power, and let me get a nice signal on you.
All right, my antenna is a random wire. It's just I don't even know how many feet it is. It's over 100 feet, and I'm putting it into an old Johnson Viking matchbox to tune it up, and it tunes up very nicely. I've had extremely good success with it. Back to you.
All right, now power up and come back with power, and let me see you.
Okay, this is the amplified version, and it should sound a whole lot better, I think.
Oh yeah, there's at least a 7 dB difference between your no power and full power there. 7 dB, which is and I'm not talking like RF signal. I'm talking about your audio on a VU meter, and I've got you calibrated for the 0 level on your full power, and then when you drop down, then I'm looking at like a -7 as far as peak. So there's a 7 dB difference between full power and flat. Roger?
Roger that. Okay, Jim. Well, thanks so very much for taking my call. I enjoy what you do, and I'm going to be sure to look at the YouTube on this, and hopefully I'll be able to talk to you again sometime. KC9VKV, this is K0KYE, and I'm going to be clear on your final. Thank you.
Roger, Cal. 3Z way, sir, and I hope you have a great day and a beautiful weekend. This is KC9VKV, the Friday afternoon Qso-Vlog net. If you've got a radio you want to check out, give me a shot.